Whatever Manjot is making, I want to double it. Just need to make sure I go on the recording.
In a world of uncertainty,
Rivers jizzing in his pants, and then you bring up your wife in the next sentence. Like, oh, no, where we're going. What is going on?
there is only one place you can turn for fair dinkum advice.
One word, unbelievable. 2 words, holy shit. 3 words, oh my god.
A place where the undeniably American
It sounds so weird in like an Australian accent.
meets the undeniably Aussie.
Hey, let's stop the foreskinning for some absolutely wonderful segments later.
Where the analysis is solid
I, for one, was not one of those haters, as I picked a Rams victory.
Look, I think he can get over 150 yards in this game, easily.
Kick his ass, Tyler Bass!
and everything else is out to kill you.
There's going to be shrinking nutsacks all over the place.
Welcome to the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
G'day, and welcome into the Aussie NFL Fantasy Football Show. My name is Matty C. I'm going to be the host of this thing, which is not new to me, but the show is going to be really, really new because we are a new show, but we're not a new show because we spent a lot of time as the Astro League Fantasy Football podcast. It was much more rooted in being a 16-team NFL Fantasy League. And now we're actually going to get a bit more general. We're going to focus much more on being a 10-team PPR league focused sort of show because, hey, look, if you're joining fantasy football, there's a great chance that's the kind of league you're in. If you're in a league in the office or amongst your mates, again, that's probably more like the league you're going to be in. And we feel like we can be the most help to the most people if we're working on their level. So, Aussie, big welcome here from my co-host too, who I'll introduce in just a moment. But I want to introduce a little bit of an Aussie tradition to the show before we even get started. And this is something that I think is really important in Australia, is that I would like to acknowledge the traditional landowners of the land that I and one of my co-hosts, Manjot, are coming in from tonight. It's Ngunnawal country. These days, a lot of people are calling it Canberra, but it has always been, always is, and always will be Ngunnawal country. And I would like to acknowledge the leaders of the Ngunnawal community who have passed or present and emerging as well. So I'd like to extend that respect to the first and traditional landowners here, but also extend it to the Darawal people up in Wollongong, where Talor's going to be dialing in from tonight as well, and pay respect to the Darawal people too. So it's an important tradition that we do here in Australia, and I think it sets the tone right for the show. So let me introduce you to this new show. We are on YouTube now. That's something that's new, and you can find us at Aussie NFL Fantasy. We're still going to be on the Instagram. If you followed us when we were Astro League, you can find us there now too. But it has just changed to be called Aussie NFL Fantasy on the Instagram as well. We've still got an email address up too, so you can send in stuff. We want to be interactive and we want to be able to help. So if you've got lineup questions, if you've got trades, you screenshot stuff and send it to us. We will give you our opinion. No, Talor will. And that is Aussie NFL Fantasy at Gmail. And lastly, if all that isn't for you, we still have the Anchor where you can leave a voicemail. So we've got 100 ways to get in touch with us. That one is anchor.fm/Aussie NFL Fantasy. We're all a few minutes older now and haven't even introduced the guys I'm working with. I think it's time to do that. Firstly, the Pastry Press NFL. It is blowing up. The Pastry Press Sports. This guy created that too. He even defeated me in a fantasy league this year. I went on and won all the biscuits. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Manjot, the myth, the legend.
Hey, let's go. Let's go. Look, firstly,
Round of applause.
new show means that I get introduced first over Talor. That is the new start. That's how you know it's a new era, because Talor was always introduced first when I was on the playoff show. But now I'm the one getting introduced first. So let's see what Talor has to say about that. But welcome, everyone. You know, great to be a part of a new era. M is the best letter in the alphabet, as I always say, because that's where all my names come in. Is where's the M?
Oh. Look, I've got to introduce my mate from, I don't know, is he Australian? Is he a Kiwi? Is he from Wollongong? Is he from Canberra? What I do know is a fierce fantasy football trader. Just today he was telling us he's got like a 4-team trade going on in a dynasty league. The one thing I can tell you too about this guy is those trades come up as nuggets. And sometimes they're butt nuggets, and like last season where he traded for guys who just blew up and were horrible, or they're gold nuggets like this year when he went on to win his maiden 16-team NFL Fantasy League championship in the Astro League. It's Talor Goodall. Welcome, brother.
Mate, who you talking about, mate? I don't do many trades. You must be talking about someone behind me. Great to be on, mate. Manjot, you're talking about being put on first. I assume it's more of a Mario Kart situation where you last and you would just last most of the time, so they just decided to give you a purple shell. So that's pretty much the way I look at this, you being introduced first. But, mate, it's going to be absolutely wonderful being together, just obviously being a dickhead like I normally am. So it's going to be absolutely wonderful to get into the free agency, and I can't wait to get into season 3 of this wonderful show. And I can't wait to have Manjot on more often. It's basically just been me and Matty this whole time, and, he's an all right bloke, and I guess we get along as much as we possibly can do, but it's going to be nice having a third wheel along.
Yeah, it really is.
Third member of the crew.
I don't even know how we discovered you, mate, but I'm glad that you agreed to come on. You're our biggest free agent signing in the offseason, so I feel like we've won free agency, which is a great place to start.
Manjot in the middle. Manjot in the middle.
Right there.
In the middle now. All right, can we agree Australia's a big place? And I think for our American fans here, they may not know how big Australia actually is, and it's around about the same size as those 48 stitched together states. So it's a big place, and it's full of big things. Straight up, Manjot, big banana, big pineapple. Any of you guys got any other big things off the cuff?
Big merino.
Big merino. Come on,
big
Manjot,
guitar in Tamworth.
Yeah. Big prawn, not shrimp, prawn.
Yeah, the prawn. Gotta get.
So it seems fitting
that
we're going to do this in a big way, and we're going to debut big with this fantasy NFL predictions show based around the free agency. Now, when we set this show up, no one signed anywhere. We were going to do this about a week ago, and schedule gods intervened, and about half of our list have already signed. But we still got people to talk about. So we'll go through some quarterbacks and running backs and tight ends. There is a bunch of receivers to talk about. And because of some of the things that have happened, it actually has created more conversation points than we had last week. So I think we should fire up a drop, because what would be more, Aussie fantasy football podcast than putting in a drop, and we'll fire it away. Yeah.
And he starts going like he goes absolutely mental, and then nearly explodes.
Like the game show version of playing Nick Kyrgios.
Aussie?
So just to clarify, one team scores more points, and they both lost to the Jets. So you take the team that scores more points.
Yes.
NFL?
You guys made me really thirsty with all those trophy picks.
The trophy is making me thirsty.
Fantasy.
Who won starts of the week, by the way?
Let's not talk about it.
Okay, right. On to the next one.
This is what 20 years of being a Jacksonville Jaguars fan does to a man, I reckon.
I feel like this was so much easier when I wrote it down. You guys are making this sound so hard.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
But it was in the Brady era, yeah.
Everything's in the Brady era, mate. All right, so I think the best place to start is quarterbacks, because there aren't a lot of compelling things going on there. Every year, there's only a couple of guys who can really ever possibly move to have a fantasy impact. And we've already seen, early on, we were saying probably Jameis was going to be an interesting one. Was anyone surprised he's in New Orleans?
Nah, not at all. That was definitely my pick.
Yeah.
I didn't really even put much else, to be honest, with Jameis. I just always thought he was going back. They are $60 million over whatever the cap is these days. I don't think anyone gives a shit about the cap, but they at least have some effect. And if you're that, it's one of those things. It's like, no one really cares about the cap, but if you're $60 million over anything, it's probably not a good thing. So there's no way they were going to be able to land some enormous free agent or go for some ridiculous trade to get anyone. I really don't. We've talked about the Saints being a chance at Watson. I really didn't actually see it. I think Jameis was always going to be their guy, because I think they felt like he was the most value for money that they could actually get. And yeah, I'm not surprised at all.
And John?
Yeah, totally. Jameis is literally been in that offense for a couple of years. He's been learning the clipboard. I know Sean Payton's gone now, but I'm assuming they're using the same offense under Dennis Allen, because Dennis Allen was obviously the defensive coordinator before under Sean Payton. So I reckon they'd keep the same offense. So if they get Winston back, then that's absolutely great. He was tearing it last year. Like he was 5-2 in 7 games until like he tore his ACL in the Superdome that one game, and it's just absolutely terrible. That's where the Saints need the quarterback and someone proven like Jameis who can be proven to lead the offense. I think that eye surgery really helped him because now he can actually see the field. Yeah, he can now actually see the field. Should I get it? Take off these glasses. Put up that eye surgery. You guys.
One thing glasses. You look distinguished and wisdomous.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Just off topic there.
One thing I will say too is sometimes it's not even just about the play you get out of that position. It's about the what player actually does to help out some of your best players. And I feel like he definitely opened up Kamara the best out of the 3 quarterbacks that they had. Taysom and Simeon didn't really do much for Kamara's game. They didn't really do any good dump offs, or they didn't really get him in good position or anything like that. You'll see in the fantasy stats that Kamara was definitely better with Jameis than the other 2. So sometimes it's not even just about what Jameis does, like himself and his own stats. It's about what he can do to actually get his best player involved. And I think that's only going to help the Saints moving forward.
Well, look, I think the other one that we were a bit interested in seeing if he could end up somewhere as a starter was Teddy, because he'd been a starter last season. And then he doesn't wind up a starter, but he ends up in a place where maybe he will get to play a bit because we've seen Tua hasn't been so durable. Any thoughts about Teddy going to Miami, guys?
Yeah. So I reckon it was between Teddy and Tyrod Taylor. Those were the 2 quarterbacks I kind of saw that could have like some sort of impact in Miami. And just on Tyrod, like I think he might be in a competition with Daniel Jones down in New York, just as an aside. So he could actually like bring in some competition for Daniel Jones and maybe play, because he was actually pretty decent in fantasy, wasn't he? Like at the start of last year, from memory, he was going off. Like he had a couple of rushing touchdowns here and there, and he was just absolutely just on his game when he had a chance for the Texans.
He might have been quarterback 1 in fantasy after week 1 last year. I don't know if I'm remembering that, but that might have happened. I mean, they played the Jags. So whatever.
I think I even picked him at the start of the week 1 week, and he went horrendous, and then that was the start of the end for him.
That was it.
I don't want to talk about starts of the week. That was the old show.
And David Mills he just took over after that. But anyway.
Yeah.
Any thoughts about Teddy Taylor?
Not too much. I honestly thought he would probably get a backup role. I thought there might have been an opportunity for him to maybe take the role at Steelers, which Trubisky's taken now anyway. I really just think those kind of guys are pretty interchangeable. Trubisky was probably one of those guys that's not the greatest starter, but probably a little bit too good to be a backup. So I'm not surprised that he got a role. And then Teddy's probably in the same boat. So I'm not surprised he ended up behind someone. And honestly, being behind Tua probably isn't the worst spot to be, because, Tua hasn't exactly proven himself either. So he's taken a role that, he has a good opportunity. And like Manjot said, with like Tyrod, I know we're not talking about him specifically, but he signed like a $15 million deal for 2 years or something like that. Yeah. So that's pretty decent money. So you can't tell me that, there isn't a decent chance that he'll actually be the starter, or at least take over if Daniel Jones is, he's going to have pressure on him, put it that way. They're both opportunities for both of those guys to actually start.
Yeah.
Well, I think that sums up those 2. I mean, I'm not sure there's a lot of fantasy impact for a guy like Teddy until we see something move at Tua. But now all these T guys and Miami, I don't know. Maybe we should call them the T baggers or something. There's Tua, Tagovailoa, Tyrod Taylor, Teddy, 2 gloves, T's everywhere.
Didn't Josh Jacobs try to teabag me and then I threw him for a roof or something?
I think Mark would say that you probably enjoyed it, and it led to a closeness.
Love that teabag.
I think the one team who've got a really compelling quarterback situation at the moment now are the Colts, who traded away a serviceable starting quarterback, I guess. And I guess we're throwing all their chips into the Watson thing. And then clearly that's not going to happen. But, well, Talor, do you want to take up the Colts first and talk to us about what you think could happen for the Colts?
Yeah, I'll take on my AFC South foes.
That's why.
You know, they're in a weird position right now. Like, there isn't really anyone left except for probably Jimmy G. They're going to have to try and work out a trade for. And outside of that, it's going to be pretty much what I brought up when we did those two early sort of predictions that I did with Jonathan Talor, because my worry was that they were always going to move Wentz. They just had to. It didn't make any sense for him to be in the building anymore. And if they didn't actually work it out getting someone at least to his level and they were just going to go one of his backups, I just don't see how they're going to move the ball that well. So, I mean, this isn't a Jonathan Talor podcast right now, but I just think in general that offense is going to struggle a bit. You know, if they get Jimmy G, I think that actually will be pretty decent for them, because I think, you know, they'll be able to move the ball at least a little bit better than Wentz, because I still rate Jimmy G ahead of Wentz.
Yeah.
But look, there's no guarantees that happens. And if it doesn't, I really think they're going to be struggling. So, you know, for their sake, I hope they work out something for Jimmy G, because I think he's definitely the best option out there for them.
Gee, wouldn't it be good to see Jimmy G at a team with a good running game? Manjot, would you agree?
Yeah. Look,
So
look, for all the Colts, like, front office, like, this is my pledge to, like, get rid of that Jimmy G contract to you guys. Look, he can hand the ball off better than anyone.
Yeah.
He can feed Talor better than anyone. You guys saw in the 2019 NFC Championship game, handoff simulator at its finest. The man can hand it off
Chef's
better
kiss.
to anyone. Yep, chef's kiss, exactly. Let Jonathan Talor cook. Chef's kiss from Jimmy G. You know, perfect. It just works out every time.
And
know?
so handsome. Just so handsome. I can't speak enough about that. Just the handsomeness is off the chart.
But where I'm going here, I think Watson, I'm getting a sniff that the Browns are getting on that Watson trade. I'm getting a sense Baker is going to the Colts, because apparently I'm hearing reports today that Baker Mayfield's primary destination is the Colts. Like, his favorite destination. Oh, and breaking news, just on that point. Got some breaking news straight off the podcast. Breaking. Michael Pittman Sr. loading up Adobe Premiere Pro as we speak at the moment to learn how to edit videos. My sources tell me that Pittman Sr. is concerned due to the potential impact Baker Mayfield will have on him and his son, star Indianapolis Colts wide receiver, Michael Pittman Jr. Look, the videos are coming. Pittman Sr. is getting on the Premiere Pro. You know, I was in class today. I was learning some Premiere Pro. I'm giving him some tips, by the way. So me and Pittman Sr. working on that Baker Mayfield overthrowing Michael Pittman Jr. video coming out September 2022, guys. Just want to put it out there.
I'll have to renew my Blockbuster membership.
As the owner of the AFC South, I say welcome, Baker Mayfield. Welcome to the AFC South. That is fantastic.
AFC South going crazy in free agency.
Colts. Wow.
Yeah.
Not the Titans. We're basically just re-signing every old we can.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, gosh, yeah. You don't have a lot to fend off in the AFC South at the moment. But especially if Houston, so they're moving on from Deshaun Watson if he ends up going to Cleveland. What's the options for Houston? I mean, this is now going one extra layer deep, and we didn't plan for this, but what happens?
So is that, I was going to ask that for Manjot. So is the plan that the Houston then trades Mayfield to the Colts?
Yeah. Either that, well, Houston trades him to the Colts, but that, I don't think they'd trade him. I think it'd be more direct. So they're directly going to get...
so it'd be Colts.
Yeah, so straight from the Browns.
Yeah. Okay.
So essentially a free team trade maybe. Or such, yeah.
Wow. Watch this space. So breaking news from Manjot. We're a show that's literally 11 minutes old. We don't have a breaking news drop. We're going to have to work on that. If you're going to be breaking news left and right, we'll have to get you a little hat that says scoop on the side. I think that'll do for the quarterbacks for the time being, because there's a couple of running backs I wanted to get a chance to talk about. And I think the top of that list of interesting guys is Leonard Fournette, because he's still without somewhere to go, but surely he's going to wind up somewhere. Manjot, did you want to riff about where you think he'll wind up?
I was thinking Miami at the start of the week, but then they got Chase Edmonds. So it's going to take me a couple of minutes to think of some place, but I'm leaning towards. I'd say. I mean, I kind of like him on the Niners, like just as a fan sort of perspective, just because we love to hold up running backs. But
Just a 1-2 punch with Mostert, and then Elijah Mitchell as a third, and then who else? You got everyone, don't you? You just got everyone.
yeah, just get everyone. I reckon it's just going to be a hard market for him. He might have to like ride it out a bit because like I think just gathering my thoughts here.
Yeah.
I think his market's going to dry up quite a bit, so he's probably going to be a backup somewhere. Just getting on with that.
I've got a
advanced
clear
age.
team if it helps.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah,
Taylor,
go
you
for it.
were really determined on a team.
Go for it.
Yeah, but it's changed. Like I was determined, and it's completely changed. I think he goes back to the Bucks.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Because Tom Brady's there. I just don't see how that doesn't get worked out. Tom Brady's the perennial, like, will restructure his contracts and stuff like that to make sure his team's better. I don't see how he doesn't end up with a guy that 100% helps him, and that's 100% Leonard Fournette. Like he is so good in the backfield, and he's always been a guy that wants someone to dump off. You look at James White there at the Patriots for a while. Leonard Fournette's more than shown that, he isn't, an athletic freak that will do something amazing when he gets the ball, but he's got two very good hands, and he can definitely take it at least for that 4 or 5 yards that he needs. And I think he's going to be there. If Brady's coming back, which he is, he's going to want someone like Leonard Fournette staying there in the backfield. I don't think he's going to trust a guy like Keyshawn Vaughn, which would have to be the guy basically if they don't re-sign him, if they don't re-sign Fournette, I mean. So I honestly think now for sure that he's just going back to the Bucks. I had some other thoughts about where I thought he would go until Brady came back, but I just think it's clear to me that he's going to go back to the Bucks.
I had as my fun team. Wouldn't that be cool if he just went on a 1-year to Buffalo and all of a sudden they had a running game again?
That was my team. That was my team.
Yeah, you had Buffalo and potentially Philly as like the fun team, I think.
Yeah. Philly was honestly
fun.
Buffalo was the team because I honestly thought at this point of Fournette's career he'd want to be like ring chasing.
That's what
I didn't think he wanted to go like a Jets or anything like that. I thought he would want to go to a pretty decent team and a team that's ready to win. And I thought he would be a good 1-2 punch with Singletary. And I think they're pretty much ready to just cut ties with Moss whenever they can.
Yeah,
but I think
scratches last year a few times. That was so weird.
Yeah, I just think at this point it's just too easy for him to come back to the Bucks. That's where I'm planting my flag.
Do you have a strong opinion about our boy Melvin Gordon?
I've always thought he was going back to the Broncos, which sucks so bad for Javonte owners.
Yeah.
Like, so anyone who has Javonte Williams in the dynasty, you were just praying like his breakout is 100% predicated on Gordon just going anywhere else, getting the F out of Dodge.
They could send him to the groceries on a Sunday at game time. That'd be great.
Yeah, it's such a weird situation that if he's such a great player and he already proved it in that one time against the Chiefs when he proved as the one. He could actually take on a full workload and really dominate with it. So he can do it. You'd have to see if he could do it over a whole season, but you want that opportunity if you're an owner. But I don't know. I just think that with the team they've got, I think they could bring him back on a one at worst 2-year deal. Probably want to try and get it to be a 1 for not a huge amount of money. Just for 1 more year, especially with Russell Wilson coming in and trying to sort of make a run at it. I think they're better. They feel like they're better as a team if they have both of them in that running back core, because at least they've got insurance if one of them goes out. As a fantasy owner, we would like to see them split up. But for Denver's sake, I think they're a better team if they're both there. I actually had him as a fun team for Miami, which obviously isn't going to happen now that Chase Edmonds has gone there.
That would have been fun.
I think Atlanta would be a good spot for him too, because they just have no one. Like he would literally take over that room straight away and be the guy. I just don't know if they're going to have the cap flexibility to make that move. They're pretty much going to have to be drafting guys with their situation. And I think Matt Ryan cost them $46 or $48 million or something this year. It's something absurd. So I don't know if that's going to happen. But I'm still going to say he ends up on the Broncos. But I'm hearing reports that doesn't look like it's going to happen. But I'm not seeing a clear spot for him. Maybe like a Jets. The Jets could overpay for him. That's a chance.
I thought that'd be about the most Jets move in the world. So that's where I had it.
It would be a Jets move. So I'm going to say like 60% Broncos, 40% Jets. That's where I'm going to land.
Man, you reckon he was in a bit of a mood to go hunting for a ring too? Where do you reckon he might wind up?
Gordon, gosh. Now I'm starting to see like the more Jet side because this could be more of like his last payday. He's not really got many years left. Yeah, it's a choice: money or rings. What does he want? So I'm going. It's either the Jets or Buffalo. He's got to choose between those AFC East rivals. Does he want the money in the Jets organization? Does he want the Bills organization to give him a ring? I reckon also like Robert Saleh, he's from the Niners, of course. He brings over the Niners run game last season. And Melvin Gordon, maybe he could be a good option in that sort of run game. I'm not super certain, but his best days seem to be behind him. Just seeing like the situation he's in. Yeah.
Man, that guy could sniff chalk, though. He scored so many crappy touchdowns last year.
Oh, yeah. And they just destroyed Javonte.
Talor and I know all about this. We had him in that podcast league.
We're Javonte all year in that podcast league, and he just destroyed us.
Melvin Gordon.
And we weren't alone.
In a creek, mate. Bloody hell. We covered Chase Edmonds. He has found himself at Miami, and that's good for him. They needed something. And James Conner winds up back at Arizona. I don't think anyone was too surprised about that. He pretty much had the Melvin Gordon season for Arizona. And there really weren't a lot of other compelling running backs to talk about. There's a couple of tight ends. I thought we'll just power through these couple of tight ends as well. Obviously, Mike Gesicki, that's sorted. He's staying in Miami. Dalton Schultz. We talk about Dalton Schultz?
He's staying.
He is staying?
Yeah, I think all the restructuring of all that money has pretty much been with an aim to get Dalton Schultz franchise tagged, I think. Either franchise tagged or maybe they'll get him a deal, but at worst, it'll be franchise tagged. That's why they got rid of Cooper. They were just going to get rid of him. They got basically, 10 cents on the dollar in that trade with Cleveland.
So weird.
It was just to get him off the books. They re-signed Gallup. CD's going to be their main guy. I assume they're probably going to go for at worst a day 2 pick in the draft on wide receiver, just to sort of fill that gap. But they just had money issues completely. So I think this was their only way that they could get Dalton Schultz back, and they got rid of Jarwin. Blake Jarwin's the only other tight end on the roster, I think, or of any fantasy relevance anyway. And he's gone, so they're basically trying to get Schultz back. So it looks like he will.
Yeah, he has been franchise tagged, just to clear that up for the viewers.
Okay.
So he's being paid for like about $10 million. Yeah, so
not bad.
It's going to be pretty good.
If you tell me 2 years ago Dalton Schultz is going to franchise tag and get paid $10 million a year, I would have submitted you to a drug test. Okay, so with Tampa Bay, there's an obvious tight end. Anyone want to talk about Tampa Bay's tight end situation?
Titans. Oh, I'm sorry. My hope was for Gronk to go to the Titans. I had that as a fun situation. My call actually was that he'd probably retire, but my fun team was the Titans. I think he just goes back to the Bucs now. I honestly think he would go there for $1. Well, I don't think he cares. Like Gronk has always been to me this guy who just does not give a shit. Like he just he honestly, just doesn't really care what he's doing. Like he just wants to play for fun. Like he just would be the funnest guy in the locker room. And I think honestly at this point it was just going to be I'll either play with Tom Brady or I'll just go back to retirement and probably play video games or something. I've got no idea what the guy likes to do. sip mimosas on the side of a beach or something like that. I don't know what he wants to do, but I just think he's just going to go back with Brady for whatever money will fit under the cap. I really don't think it's going to matter.
I don't know that there's anywhere else in the league he'd play.
He wouldn't.
No.
Yeah.
I reckon just he'd either like go to the box, play with Brady, or he'd go to Brady's couch and retire and then host some parties on like a boat somewhere out in
100%.
Bring all these
That's the
Lakers
only
He'd just be the ultimate
options
hype
I
guy.
have.
He'd be the ultimate hype man, just like two speakers above his head for two boom boxes.
I think he had a cruise around the world or something like in 2009. Not around the world, but like around America or something like in 2019, where he was just like straight up cruising and partying. Man was living his best life after winning that Super Bowl ring. He literally damaged the trophy and everything. Like,
I think in future, I would love it if a team called themselves the Gronks and just had him as their mascot. No, I mean, I think the Washington team missed an opportunity.
Should have done it.
How good of a mascot would he be? He doesn't even have to get in the foam suit or anything.
Anything's better than Commanders. Anything's better than that.
I just think they missed an opportunity. We've got some wide receivers to plow through, and I'm looking forward to doing that. I reckon we should let's wedge in a drop because I love doing them, and we'll bring back the wide receivers.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
I got no notes, but I got the memory, so.
Every time I believed them a little bit this year, they've just kicked me right in the testes.
Manjot, myth, legend.
All right, you guys throw me into the fire straight away, but that's why I'm here.
Taylor talk time.
Antonio Brown's out there hanging out with Kanye West. If that's not an insane asylum handing the keys to the inmates, I don't know what is.
Matty C.
This thesaurus is both terrible and terrible.
I've got nothing else.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
I can speak for everybody in the room when I say we were all wide receivers now playing days. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Taylor,
absolutely.
you're a great wide receiver, right?
Yeah, when I played fantasy a couple of years ago, I felt like I was wide receiving.
Also, if you want to
it
check
left your end less than tight. There we go. Work
Yes.
it out.
Also,
Yes,
if
it
you
was.
want to check on our Instagrams, we've got Matty C catching an Odell right on the top. We got the cameras on for that. We're on live stream and we didn't catch it, but we had Matty C film it, luckily on another camera, and he caught it just as I got the good edit for it as well. So check that out. We're almost...
Only the 46th take. I swear to God.
Do you know how sore I was for about a week after that? That was horrendous. The amount of times I'd ended up on the ground and just clutching parts of my back and stuff. Yeah. Went through tubes of deep heat after that. The old body. It's a bit brutal. Tay, you were a bit of a maestro at receiving, right? You're a catching guy. You played a lot of ball sports. I'm sure that there's a lot you can transfer into the wide receiver talk we're about to get into here, mate.
Yeah, a lot of basketball, a lot of rugby league, a lot of rugby union, a lot of cricket. Love fielding the slips because as soon as the ball went past you just pointed to third man and just didn't have to do anything. It was the ultimate fat man's position. So it was absolutely perfect for me, mate.
All right, well, I'll do a quick recap of a few because I don't think anyone's surprised. Devontae Adams, as much as I wanted him to come to the Jags, is staying at Green Bay.
Whoa! I'm amazed.
No, I'm amazed.
Shocked.
Aaron Rodgers signed his deal today, so he said he wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't
gonna play
about
on
the money,
franchise tag,
Matthew.
but-
It wasn't about the money.
No.
Not about the money at all. I just got $50 million a year, but it wasn't about the money, I swear.
No, it's a $124 million extension over 2 years, essentially. Because the extension doesn't include this year. So,
he's good at making the rest of his team better, isn't he? Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. All about the team improvement.
Yeah.
Chris Godwin staying in Tampa Bay, no dramas.
Joined by Russell Gage, by the way. Absolute great signing.
What happened today?
He'll be Chris Godwin light until Chris Godwin comes back.
That's it. And we love Russell Gage. He was good to us in different leagues this year, wasn't he, Tay?
Yeah, he wasn't bad. He was always good as a plug-and-play sort of waiver wire pickup. There was never really too much consistency in the Atlanta offense. So I'm glad he's gone to somewhere a bit better.
How many weeks did I want to take Matt Ryan in starts of the week? We're not talking about that. Anyone surprised that Mike Williams signed a big old deal to stay at the Chargers?
A bit surprised. A bit
No,
surprised.
I didn't.
I thought they couldn't keep him, but then they did, and it was just a great deal. But I did see it kind of coming, but I thought he'd go to a team like the Browns, to be honest. But yeah,
They're
totally
trying
great.
to do everything they can to keep their quarterback.
Yeah.
happy. Like they're trying to do
exactly.
everything to make him as good a chance of winning right now. They just saw another LA team win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that they're going all in to try and do the same sort of thing because they want to try and wrestle back. Anyone that's fans in LA, I don't know how many there actually are, but they don't actually go for the teams that are there. But
They go for this
wrestle,
team.
They're trying to wrestle back whatever they can in that sort of market, and I'm not surprised that they're going fully all in. So I wasn't surprised that one of his better weapons came back.
Yeah, be exciting or leave is kind of the rule in LA, right? Michael Gallup got that big deal to stay in Dallas, which I was surprised about, but then once the Amari Cooper move had happened.
Yeah.
Okay,
Very
enough.
surprising.
And then Christian Kirk. Can anyone explain this?
We'll leave it to you, Matty. It
Mate,
means a lot
this is
to
your
you, mate.
team. Mate,
I
this
thought
is
you
your
guys were
team,
going to do
Matty.
this. So I've prepared some notes on Christian Kirk, 3 or 4 pages. No. I thought overall it sounded like a horrendous waste of money. And then once you look at the breakdown, he's $1.5 million this year because it's all signing bonus. He doesn't cost us anything. A $20 million signing bonus. Signing bonus is the cheap way of beating salary caps, right? Because it doesn't count for shit. So he's $1.5 million this year, and then he's like average of 14 for the rest. All right. Okay. And it becomes really cuttable quickly. So it's actually probably not as horrendous as people are making out.
Yeah.
That's
the
why I
thing.
think Jags here.
People need to realise when Adam Schefter sends out a tweet of just stupidness and stupid amounts of commas and brackets and stupid shit, you've got to actually look at the amount that's actually 100% guaranteed to them. Like, he says like 4 million, 4 years, 80 something million, and it's like 40 million if it's actually guaranteed. So that's really the amount you got to look at. And how many times you actually see him tweet out something where it's like, 2 years, 30 mil, and then he doesn't even say the guaranteed amount. That means it's because it's very low and the agent didn't want him to actually say it. So you got to actually realize that there is a lot of games behind what's actually happening, and it's the amount that gets sort of put out there isn't always the right amount.
Yeah, that's a great tip actually for reading those tweets because I think people get dazzled up front.
Yeah.
And I thought Zay Jones was a surprising amount of money as well. But I don't know that
they need someone that can stretch that offense. Like that offense last year, I don't know if it was that they were just trying to sort of put the training wheels on Lawrence, but they needed something that could stretch the field because everything was just weird dump off shit to Agnew and Chenault they put on the outside, even though Chenault's sort of better at being a slot guy, and it was just all really weird, and they needed someone that could actually sort of blow the lid off the defense. So I actually don't mind that. I think it's at least someone that could do something that gives Lawrence a bit of a deep look.
Yeah.
I'm
how about
with it?
Yeah, how about the protection he got though? Brandon Sheriff.
that's the big
That's
news.
a big one.
Yeah,
I
they
think
spent
this
money
is
on lines, and that's important.
Yeah, it's a sign that maybe Aiden Hutchinson is more of the first overall pick. He could be the defensive end pairing with Josh Allen. I know we're not talking about defense today because it's a fantasy podcast, but
first overall pick is an important
Jaguars
subject, though. Yeah,
Jaguars could be pretty decent if they just get the chips right in another couple years. Still a few years away, but a bit of optimism I'm seeing from Trevor Lawrence, getting him some help here. Aiden Hutchinson could be coming along. So, Matty, keep your head up, mate.
We're going to possibly win as many as 4 games this year. So I'm feeling pretty good. Don't set the sights too high, though. There's some interesting guys left, though. So we cover most of the big moves and Amari Cooper trades, and that was a whole big deal. But probably some of the most interesting guys left. I'm really interested in Allen Robinson. Manjot, I think you should take the wheel on this one. What do you think about Allen Robinson?
This one I've been very passionate about since possibly mid last season. I've been thinking about him going to a team like the Patriots. Like, he's a Patriots type of guy, I reckon. He just hasn't had a good career. Like, literally has been in Jacksonville and Chicago. So he's literally been like wasted his whole career with guys like Trubisky and Bortles throwing to him. He had like Fields, but Fields with no O-line. So that was nothing as well. So if he goes to the Patriots, gets some catches from Mac Jones, I reckon that's a good fit for him. The Patriots. That's my dream fit for him too, because I've been like on that bandwagon, Robinson Patriots bandwagon ever since midseason. I've been like, yep, here we go. Robinson's
Such a Patriots kind of move, isn't it? To just scoop up this extraordinarily talented player who's just been underexposed to decent play. I mean, not that I think Mac is all of a sudden this incredible quarterback, but I mean, he's got some potential. Talor, what do you say about Allen Robinson?
So my absolute prayer is that he somehow ends up on the Chiefs, because as a fantasy analyst and someone who has just been sitting there waiting for Allen Robinson to be with some half decent to good quarterback, it's just been horrendous, like watching it. And then last year was just an absolute turd sandwich. And so if he ended up with Mahomes, that would be the miracle play that I'd love to see. I didn't have him going there. That's just me saying that, it had actually finally put to rest the whole, like, what could Allen Robinson be with a better quarterback? That's my only worry, is that a lot of these teams that I have him possibly going to isn't really a huge upgrade on quarterback. Like, to me, Patriots, Mac Jones, like you just said, Matty, I'm still not 100% sold on him in terms of, giving out fantasy assets, like giving out fantasy relevant, yardage totals. I just think they're going to run a lot. That's the way Bill Belichick's going to do it. I also can see him possibly ending up in Philly. I know he played his college ball in Pennsylvania, so I always thought that he was a decent chance maybe he'd go back there. But I've got my serious reservations about Jalen Hurts as a passer, so I don't 100% know if that would make him, huge fantasy asset coming off last year, and then even Atlanta. But I've sort of ruled Atlanta out now because, again, I've seen all those numbers about their dead cap and what they're paying Matt Ryan and stuff. I think they're going to have to do everything in the draft. So my hope would be the Chiefs, which I would love to see happen just to sort of put all that to rest. But I'm sort of making a call on the Eagles. I think the Eagles may make a run at him.
Be a bit of fun. I mean, as you say, you don't know if that's an upgrade or not. Because
exactly.
If you got through your whole career and Jalen Hurts was the best quarterback you ever got, so sad.
And then there's also the question of, is he actually done? Like, last year, he can blame whatever he wants to, but that was a horrendous year. Like, that is honestly the worst fantasy output I've ever seen for a guy that was drafted near the top 10. Like, it was horrendous. So, like, just for someone to go, normally you have a bad year, it's like you drafted 10th in wide receiver and you finished 20th. Like, he was unplayable. He was unplayable for like 80, 90% of the year. Like, it was just absurd. So, he has actually got to, stop those questions about whether he's actually completely toast.
Is he a buy low candidate, in your opinion, for fantasy this year, Talor?
Oh, look, he'd need to end up in the right situation. Like, you got to sort of make your own guesstimation about whether you think he's done. I don't think he is. I do think he will be a buy low candidate. The problem is if he ends up on like a Chiefs, which I said was the fun spot. I don't think I would draft him if he ended up on the Chiefs. I know that sounds stupid, but I think he would actually end up too high. If he ended up on like a bad team, if anything, that would actually make him more interesting because he'd be drafted so low. So that's the thing. You've just got to make your own call on whether you think he is completely washed up or whether that was just a bad season and in a bad situation. I will probably be looking at him, but it's going to be very dependent on where he goes in drafts and what team he's on, obviously.
I think that'll be a great subject for when we do one of these probably a little too early ranking shows, because it's going to get determined where he plays fairly soon. At some point, someone's going to take him. And I think he'll be a really compelling guy to talk about because, my God, he was a free agent in our 16-team half-point PPR league for at least 1 week last year. Manjot's shaking his head, and that is the right response. That's madness. That is how bad
I traded
he
him.
had.
I traded him for DK Metcalf in week 2.
Oh,
But in week 2, it didn't seem like such a
No,
blind robbery.
it didn't.
You know?
It wasn't.
But it turned out to be blind robbery. That's what it turned out to be.
league-winning moves, right
And
there.
Metcalf didn't even really have that great a year. He just turned up exactly
Yeah,
what
no,
I needed him in championship week.
Yeah, in a big way. What he scored 38 in championship week or something. Bloody hell. Speaking of guys with championships, perfect segue, Taylor, making me sound more professional. OBJ won a championship last year after 2 years in Cleveland.
Did he?
Going nowhere in New York. But he's a free agent now. What say you guys? Tay, I'll give it to you first. OBJ, where's he going? Titans.
I didn't really look too far in OBJ because I think he's probably going to go back to the Rams. They've openly talked about that they wanted him back. Obviously, a lot of that talk was before he tore his ACL, but I just think in their win now mode, he's happy there. It sounds to me like he's happy to take a couple of $1 million less to stay there than probably some of the other suitors would pay. And because he's torn the ACL, it probably has held a few other teams out anyway. I think the smart play is for him just to come back there. I don't know exactly how many years it'll be. They may just do a short-term thing just to see how he comes back from the ACL. It'll depend what he thinks he should do as well. But I think he's going to end up just going back to the Rams.
Manjot, what do you think, mate?
Yeah, I agree. The Rams will probably take him. I reckon his market might not be immediate. Like, he might not sign his deal like right now or the next couple of weeks. It probably maybe go into even like November when he's like fully healthy. He could be like a mid-season pickup. He might play that wait and see approach. See like who's like a good team to ring chase on or something.
Who's 7-2?
Yeah. Who's that 9-0 team? That's the last undefeated team. That's not going to win the Super Bowl because that never happens. But yeah,
He doesn't have Baker Mayfield.
yeah.
So
Not the
Colts are
Colts.
off. No Colts.
Yeah.
It was posited somewhere in our discussions off mic a while back that the funnest place in the world he could go to was Vegas. And I find that hard. That is such an intoxicating thought. How much fun would hotel be in Vegas?
Mate, he's got enough time to rehab. So
Story
he
right
can just
himself.
That's all. I'm just saying.
the bro can just gamble all he wants in Vegas. It's all good. And then he comes back and plays on the field. Just don't bet on NFL games, otherwise you're out for the whole year.
Ooh,
Calvin Ridley learned the hard way. Just to mess with OBJ. Gamble responsibly.
Yes. Absolutely.
OBJgus?
Oh. JJJs.
Why not?
A lot of J's in Juju Smith-Schuster. Again, Taylor, you're on fire, mate. You're setting me up. You're putting him on tees. What? I don't even know where to go with this. I just don't know that there's any chance he goes back to Pittsburgh, right? I mean,
nah.
Manjot, what do you think, mate?
Tough one. I could see him go to a team like the Chiefs. I could see him go to the Chiefs. That it was happening last year too. Like he wanted to go to the Chiefs, and then he knocked it back, and then he just re-signed with the Steelers. But I think this year they're gonna have to move on. I reckon the Chiefs would be a good spot, but it'll be more short-term, like 1 year, 2 year deal. And we're just talking about OBJ to Vegas. How good would it be? Juju and KC. Like, firstly, that rolls off the tongue so well. Juju and KC. And then secondly, Jackson Mahomes and Juju running it up on TikTok. Mate, how many views would you get on TikTok for that, Jackson, mate? Yeah.
You can do crappy dances together. Tay, have you got an opinion on this one?
Yeah, so I had Juju Poo-Poo Juice or whatever his name was, we were calling him, going to the Chiefs as well. But I also had an interesting team, and I actually wrote it down in the notes that I sent you, Matty.
Yeah.
I have an interesting team, and I put it as interesting and not fun because it's the least fun team probably in the league. But it was interesting in the way that I called it the ultimate contradiction, as in I would find it funny if Juju ended up in the Patriots because I feel like he's the complete opposite of what Bill Belichick would actually normally want because he's just an absolute knobhead who goes out and does bloody TikTok dances in the middle of the logo and stuff like that. Like, that would be the complete opposite of what Bill Belichick would want. But that's what makes it interesting. Like, I actually would find it so interesting if Juju ended up on the Patriots to see because I think he actually needs someone like Bill Belichick. I think he needs someone to just slap him on the back of the head and put him in the line. So I actually feel like it could work. Again, like Manjot mentioned, like he was close to going to the Chiefs last year. I think there was some talk about the Ravens or something as well, but it all fizzled out. But my call would be the Chiefs, but I would find it so interesting if he ended up on the Patriots because I actually funnily think it could actually work, even though it seems like the complete odd couple. I actually think if he was put under Bill Belichick's wing, he could actually turn into a better player than he's sort of turning out to be at the moment. Because I think he's at an all-time low at the moment. 3 years ago, he couldn't have been higher. And now he's just sort of falling away. It's going to be that, or somehow the Jets just, pay him $80 million a year. It's just like
put him next to Corey Davis.
yeah, exactly. It'll be something stupid like that. But I'm saying the Chiefs with the thought that it'd be funny if he ended up with the Patriots.
Yeah. I thought it'd be funny if he ended up a Patriots.
Yeah.
Sorry, Manjot, you're going to say?
Yeah, so with the Chiefs, remember when he was with the Steelers at the start, and then he had Antonio Brown taking the first cornerback off him. So then he always cornerback 2. So then Tyreek Hill will have cornerback 1 on him, and then Juju can just go cornerback 2. He can just run some routes. The Chiefs need a second receiver. Juju is perfect in the wide receiver 2 role. I don't think he's a good wide receiver 1 from what I've seen over the years, but wide receiver 2, he definitely just pop off with those numbers. He just go off and just make 1,200 yard season. That sort of numbers I'd absolutely love to see.
I think it'd be interesting to see him somewhere like that too, because he's shown us he's willing to take a little less money to go and play where he thinks it will fit him. Because, he turned down more money at Baltimore, who are clearly a pretty well-run franchise, to stay in Pittsburgh where he was just comfortable and he knew it wasn't going to be a good situation. So I could sort of see him being well, there's bigger suitors, but where do I think I'd be most comfortable? So, that'd be interesting. But, Taylor bringing up the New England thing, I could see that as very much and the way Taylor framed it too is how much of this would be you got kind of the epitome of opposites against each other here. And I thought the same thing when the Patriots took on Cam. I thought, that doesn't mix. And either it's going to be a disaster because they don't mix, or Belichick is just going to Belichick and turn Cam kind of into something. And it turns out probably neither were really true, but it certainly didn't work. So I'll be interested to see what happens there. But look, I think both would be interesting. Really, really interesting, even if neither of them come up there. They're kind of fun to dream about.
That'll be fun.
There's opportunity for Jarvis Landry to do a bit of dreaming, though, because he's been told he can go out and check out the market and look for a trade. I reckon you're the best person to handball this one to, Manjot, because, man, if there is a guy who's looking around rosters all the time, it's you. And if there's a guy who loves wide receivers, it's you. So if you're Jarvis Landry, where are you looking?
Jarvis Landry. I'd say a team like the Ravens. I go with the Ravens because I think he'd be a good slot guy for Rashad Bateman and Marquise Brown. And he'd also want the revenge on the Browns because
wouldn't he?
The Browns have actually spurned him in this situation. He could feel like that, but I don't know if they've necessarily spurned him, but I think there is some sort of spite because he was playing decently at the start of last season and he just got injured, and now they've just given up on Jarvis Landry straight up. So I reckon Jarvis Landry will be on the Ravens. That's just where I'm going with. I reckon it'd be a good spot for him. He's also much better as a slot receiver than an outside guy because he used to be catching 100 balls a year from the Dolphins. Absolutely was a monster there.
Clockwork. Yeah.
The Dolphins was absolutely amazing.
I had seen there's a bit of momentum for him to the Saints where potentially it's like the Emmanuel Sanders role there with Michael Thomas slated to be back. I think that would be super interesting. Not that I'm sure Jameis is the let's work up the slot kind of guy that Drew Brees was, but I mean, it'd be interesting because you've seen precedent for that size guy who plays that sort of role have some success in that offense. So, I mean, I'd find that an interesting spot for him to turn up. And I don't know. He copped a lot of slack from Miami as he was on the way out the door about being a tough guy in the building. And I don't know whether Cleveland is just such a different place that all of a sudden it just goes away and he doesn't even have to change for that story to melt away. But I don't know. Also, maybe he's just a bit older and wiser and knows his way around a locker room a bit more now. And, you know, maybe if that's the
less
case, and
OBJ,
he's a savvy veteran, maybe New Orleans is a good place for him to go.
Maybe you could team up with OBJ. Maybe OBJ was the bad influence for him. Yeah, so
maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe. I guess when you got a teammate who's a pain in the ass as Odell Beckham Jr., all of a sudden you probably seem like a walk in the park. Now, somewhere along the line here, we've lost Talor, and I've got to assume that he's just in a
His
bit of
phone has died.
drive.
His phone has died. He's texted us. I just had to check my phone for Talor updates. But yeah, I'm over all the breaking news here. We can edit this out, but you know, we'll edit this out. But
yeah, he could be a little while before he works it out. I think in the meantime, we've got certainly one big name to talk about who isn't anyone's team. He left midway through a game, for God's sake. Antonio Brown brings a ute load of something to any team he goes to. I don't know. Is there a future for him in the league this year, do you think?
It depends. There's one situation that he could go to. It's the Broncos. If Kanye and him team up, Donda Sports, we take you over the Broncos. We sign up Antonio Brown, pair him up with Judy Sutton. You've got Russell Wilson at quarterback. They're winning the Super Bowl at that point.
That would be
not gonna quit
a big turn of events for them.
Yeah, I don't know if Kanye like literally buys Yee. That's how he's legally known now. Yee.
Oh
yeah,
God.
That's his legal name. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be like dead naming someone here, but Yee, if he buys literally the Broncos for like however much it is, like it's gonna be like $4 billion or something. That's billion with a B, by the way.
With a B, like big baller brand B.
Yeah. Like if they actually buy him, like Antonio is getting signed first day. That's the first move he's making as an owner. But absolutely, I would not like want that situation to happen. It's just gonna be a mess. Like, what's Yee gonna know about like NFL, like that sort of side? He's just gonna want the entertainment sort of factor. So it's not. Just please don't happen. Just don't happen.
I think he'd be the kind of guy who would find it hard not to meddle. You know.
Yeah.
The organization is full of football people, and whether you think they're good at it or not, I mean, Elway clearly cannot draft a quarterback.
Yeah,
but
it's Patton now, though. Patton is the GM. Elway's a bit higher than the VP. He's still got control somewhat. He's still in that football decision-making process. But the Broncos, over their history, never drafted a QB. They've always traded for one or signed Payton in free agency. They traded for Elway when he was like the number one pick and did not want to play for the Colts. Now they traded for Russell Wilson. And the first two worked out. Is this the third time luck goes in groups of three, as they say? Is this the third time lucky as well? Do they get Wilson out there? Does he win them the ring? We'll find out, because that's a tough division. We've gone this far without talking about how much like the division is just absolutely messed up. Gosh, it's just I've been watching like that division. You're always seeing a West team make it into the Super Bowl. So the last like 5 Super Bowls have had a West team. Super Bowl 53, 54 was 2 West teams, 55, 56. So 4 in a row. Could be 5 this year, honestly. The way this is going, It's just going to
Hard
be
look
crazy
past that
watching.
division, isn't it? In the AFC, it's just
It's going
hard
to
to
be
look past it.
absolutely crazy because you still got Mahomes and KC. They're still going to be hard to beat. The Chargers, they're absolutely stacked on both sides of the ball. I was listing their list of stars. They've got great quarterback Herbert, great running back Eckler, 2 great wide receivers Allen, and of course Mike Williams. A great center Corey Linsley. 2 defensive ends who are just absolute, 2 absolute monsters on defensive end in Bosa and Mack. They're just going at different sides of the offensive line. And then that secondary, they just signed JC Jackson to a massive deal. He's an absolute interception machine. Him, Derwin James, Asante Samuel Jr. in that secondary. If they can get a guy like Bobby Wagner or Miles Jack in that linebacking core, that's that could be that final infinity stone. So I think those two, of course, we're still on the fantasy topic, but
We are.
if one of those two goes to the Broncos or the Chargers, that's a defense you might want to pick up in fantasy because it's just going to be fun to watch them. If one each goes to them, it would be wouldn't that be fun? Jack goes to the Broncos and Wagner goes to the Chargers or vice versa. That would be absolutely, you can pick up either of them and they'd be absolute monsters on that defensive front. I'd pick them up as the 3rd or 4th best, defensive units in fantasy, to be honest.
The way fantasy scores too, if you're not getting turnovers and defensive touchdowns, you're not scoring. Just holding teams to not many points or not many yards doesn't score you fantasy points.
Yeah.
Turnovers do. They're hard to predict. They're not repeatable generally either. A defense that gets a lot of turnovers one year is often not doing it. It's not a sticky stat and it doesn't, they kind of even out. So, you're best just hitching your wagon to who you think's got the most chance for that. And,
I know with the Chargers,
as bad as they were, the Texans were a surprisingly good fantasy defense last year because they just got turnovers. They couldn't score when they had the ball, but then their defense was on the field again and getting turnovers. So, it's funny like that.
I think they'll be doing that this year.
No.
Based on fantasy point. But based on that fantasy form thing, they're not going to do that this year.
No, exactly right. So, it's a cyclic thing. The last player I wanted to mention, and we're going to soldier on without Talor. He's dead. Sorry, long live Talor. Talor has said long live Talor. He will join us again for the next show. So we also get a great chance here to just make jokes at his expense for the next couple of minutes. And this is a gratuitous pick for me because I have had a love affair with Will Fuller since he was a Notre Dame receiver. They're my college football team. I can't explain why. I just have always gravitated to them. And he has had the biggest stop-start career in history, and now he doesn't have a team. Is there somewhere you think he could turn up and still play, or do you think maybe that's the end for Will Fuller?
Oh, it's tough. It's tough. Something is telling me that it's the end, but I can see a wide receiver needing team. We're talking about Antonio Brown. I could see an Antonio Brown, Will Fuller end up on the Jaguars, honestly, because the Jaguars just give out contracts to anyone at this point. If you play a wide receiver in high school, you can get a contract. Matty C, you're getting a contract tomorrow.
I might. Jaguars. We've put up the footage of that catch. I might get a call.
Yeah, I'm here. My phone's buzzing. My phone's I'm
go crazy for me to see the Jags sign a almost 40-year-old white wide receiver from Canberra. That would top the cake.
Mate, it'd be $100 million 5 years. You're getting up to Tom Brady age. I'm sorry, you're playing until you're Tom Brady age at this point.
They just have that stage where they've got so much cap unused over a couple of years that it stops rolling over and they just have to spend it. That's the problem there.
Yeah. Okay.
And then Will Fuller. Pull one out for Will Fuller.
I think it's close to the end. I think you should go ring chasing. Go to the Chiefs. Come on, man. Just go to the Chiefs. Rebuild. Just, rebuild your career a bit. Rebuild your legacy a little bit. Try and get a ring. Yeah, go to the Chiefs. Look, I'm just saying for any of them, just go to the Chiefs. Try and build yourself around Mahomes, get a ring. That's what I'm saying to all these wide receivers out here today. Juju.
We're just going to have a whole thing of just every player we've mentioned in a Chiefs uniform on the Instagram this week. You watch, it's coming.
So we'll follow to the Chiefs. Let's go. Let's go with that as a dream fit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Chiefs are on second favorite team because they're fun to watch, right? As long as they're not playing your team, you can cheer for them, right? So, why not? Why not look for there? I'd buy that jersey.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. Taylor Talk time.
Oh, I'd gladly never meet Matty again. Oh, I agree.
that hurts here and
sorry. Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry, I realize I've got to get the trophy off you, so I take that back.
Yes. Then you can shut me out of your life forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Joe, let's stop the foreskinning. Let's stop the foreskinning for some absolutely wonderful segments later. And someone just pegs a dildo. Yes. It was a better pass than Mac Jones did all day. Oh, look at all the penalties we had against us. It means the refs screwed us. That contract's as tight as a nun's you know what, mate. So you can't get out of this bad boy. Someone get me an adult nappy because I am moist.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
That's why we're on the podcast together, mate. We take shots at each other. Well done, Taylor. I'm not below shameless self-promotion.
I think we've done a good job of this for our first show. Interesting that we've all of a sudden had to wrap it up just the two of us, but we'll pour one out for Taylor as well while we're just there for Will.
Is the M&M's segment not sponsored by M&M's? We haven't got sponsors yet, but hit us up if you want to sponsor us.
Yes, if you are part of a big company that begins with M and you've got money and you'd like to sponsor a weird show from the other side of the earth, yes, find us on Facebook and Instagram. We are Aussie NFL Fantasy. Hopefully, you've been watching us on YouTube too. Aussie NFL Fantasy at YouTube. We are looking to be interactive. So definitely use the email. Definitely use Anchor as well if you're not a writing sort of person, and get in touch with us on both of those. It's AussieNFLFantasy@gmail.com. And the Anchor is anchor.fm/Aussie NFL Fantasy. And you can leave us a voicemail for up to a minute there. And I mean, God, the Instagram's been fun lately. If you don't follow Manjot, plug your Instagrams as well while we're here. Do it.
All right. So I'm going berserk. I've joined a few other podcasts and stuff. So
crazy.
So the Aussie End Zone, of course, absolute legends, CJ, Brad, Tomo, absolute legends over there. Follow us for more, what should I say? Non-fantasy sort of thing. Football, like real life football. That's what you guys call it, right? Yeah. So real life football, of course, Pastry Press NFL, Pastry Press Sports for other sports. I've also joined a Brisbane Broncos podcast. Me and Taylor's NRL, AFL, whatever fantasies we want to do, podcasts. That's gonna come, right?
It's coming.
It's coming. And one more thought I was gonna say. Sorry to interrupt midway, but happy new league year, Matty. Happy new league year to Taylor, who has gone. Yeah, so the league new year is going to start at 8 a.m. Thursday, 17th of March, 2022. That's when we open up shop for the 2022 NFL season. All trades going to be official. So Russell Wilson is officially a Bronco. Carson Wentz officially a Commander. Never thought I'd say that in 2022. What is a Commander, mate?
We're gonna find
out. All those signings, all those signings going to be official. JC Jackson officially a Charger, for example. Yeah. So Matty C officially a Jaguar, as I just said.
And that's coming. Right? The famous number 80.
Yes. So anything that has been reported is now officially official 8 a.m. on the Thursday morning. So probably by the time this has been up and you guys have watched it, happy new league year to all our viewers. Yeah, so thanks for the recording.
Happy St. Paddy's Day as well. It'll be St. Paddy's Day by the time this thing goes live. And I don't know, over here in Oz, because I'm from Irish stock, so St. Paddy's Day is a bit of a big deal. So wherever you are,
happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, have a considered drink. Don't go too crazy, but enjoy a bit of St. Paddy's Day nonsense. But I think we're about ready to wrap. Thank you for joining me for the first ever Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. We'll do this again real soon.
Yeah. This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
So why not attack the host of this show?
I feel like we should organise some sort of prize for you or something. I don't know.
Last week, everyone had AIDS. This week, everyone has Yades.
Aussie.
Funnily enough, this position is called tight end, but it's leaving me with my end less than tight.
NFL.
You know what you do. You go and get T. Higgins.
I don't know why. I just had this feeling you wouldn't like Joe Mixon.
David Montgomery.
Hunter Henry.
Jarvis Landry.
Teddy Two Gloves.
Kenyon Drake.
Fantasy.
Byron Pringle was actually pretty good.
Yeah, mate. He was a Chris Kringle, that guy.
That didn't sound very exciting.
There's only one quarterback I think is hotter.
Don't take it. There's a pick I want, man. Don't take it, mate.
This is how big of a fan I am. I have a 49ers checker set.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
The only thing that was tightening up was my pants.